Hello and welcome back to Bookish. Today is Tuesday and I'm here with another tag because that's what I do on Tuesday. This is the Dilemmas of a Book Nerd tag. It was created by Lindsey at Lindsey's Little Library and I was tagged by Doris of AllDBooks. Thank you, Doris, for tagging me. This looked like a fun tag. I've seen a lot of people do it, and being a book nerd, you know, it seems right up my alley. I'll leave links to Lindsey's original and to Doris's videos down below. So here we go. Prompt number one is about book storage. In other words, how do you store your books? Well, I just did a video about reorganizing my bookshelves. So primarily, I store my books on what amounts to 6 sets of bookshelves. The ones on my left here are kind of medium height, about chest height, and the ones behind me are well over 6 feet tall. That's where I store most of my books. We do have one bookshelf in our living room, which is kind of a fancy shelf where I get to store some of my books, particularly my hardback books and my collection of the works of Thomas Boyd, and my wife stores her books, and it's also, you know, one of those kind of decorative display shelves. Prompt number two is how do you keep track of the books that you've read? And I have a diary, which I usually have on my desk here. There it is right there. I have a diary where I record what I read. The diary is separated by genre. So fiction books that I've read are recorded alphabetically by author, and nonfiction books that I've read are recorded alphabetically or recorded by subject. Anyway, that's where I keep track of that. By the way, I'm a little behind. Prompt number three is, do you lend books? And the answer is no. I just don't want to resent you for not bringing my book back. I don't want to feel, even if it's just me, that awkward moment where, you know, where I see you or we're together somewhere together and all I want to do is ask you, did you finish reading the book I loaned you so you can give it back? So I just usually don't loan books in that situation. If I know somebody, and this almost never happens by the way, but if I know somebody who's really genuinely interested in a book that I have on my shelf, I'll usually just buy them a paperback copy of it and send it to them or give it to them. I'd much rather do that than lend you a book and have all that kind of, you know, potential tension surrounding whether or not I'm going to get my book back. Prompt number four is, how do you buy your books? Well, I guess I have to admit this, I'm addicted to Amazon Prime. It is incredibly satisfying and addictive to be able to go in and find pretty much every book I could ever want and get it sent to my house in 2 days at no shipping cost. I got into Amazon Prime because I have 2 kids in college, and that ended up being the cheapest way to order textbooks because of no shipping cost. I realized that Amazon is an evil conglomerate which mistreats its workers, and I apologize for being addicted to their service, but it is one of those things which is hard for me to avoid. I also buy books at secondhand bookshops. I buy books at independent bookshops in Houston. Even there are a couple of excellent ones. And I do go into chain bookstores as well. Prompt number five is, how do you respond to the comment, how do you read so much? I think my answer will be similar to almost everybody's. I read so much, which I don't really read all that much, I don't think, but I read so much because I prioritize reading. I am a really slow reader, but I prioritize reading. I make time for reading. I have a book going all the time, and I have that book at hand. So when I do have a few moments or an hour or two to concentrate, I can just pick the book up and read it. I'm not one of those people who has to have complete silence or even any kind of silence to read. I can read in the same room in which my wife or kids are watching a movie or television. I can read in a room in which somebody's on the phone, in which music is playing, you know. Zelda has something to say. This is my daily life during the summer when I'm home. They see a tiny bird outside and they have to talk about it. Great Danes are awesome. They're not the smartest dogs in the world. They're really affectionate, but they're also really, really loud. Prompt number six is, how do you choose your next book? Well, since BookTube, I choose a lot of my next books based on, you know, reading months. I really like those. I like participating in the, you know, Victobers, the Shake Tubes, Jane Austen July. You know, I will dip into almost any of those at least a little bit. I probably don't devote my whole month, or rarely devote my whole month to those, but I just can't resist booktubers who really love certain books or authors, or have a good idea for a read along. I just can't resist. I guess I'm a joiner. So that's been kind of dictating a lot of my reading. I do get a lot of suggestions from booktubers now, which I never had before, which has really been great, because I can read so many different books than I read in the past when I just had to find them all on my own. I had a tendency to read the same authors over and over again, and now I think my reading is much more diverse in every single way. But before that, I used to have what my wife referred to as a book tryout. When I finished a book, I would go pick 4 or 5 books off the shelf that I was interested in reading, and then I would read the first page or so of each of those books, and whichever one caught my attention the most would be the one I read next, and then I would put the other 4 back on the shelf to await their day in which they caught my attention the most. Problem number 7 is, how do you pick a book to take on vacation? It's the book I'm reading and then whatever book I'm going to read next. For various reasons, we don't take really long vacations, so this really isn't an issue. But when I do go out of town, I do always take a book, and it's just whatever book I'm reading. I don't, have summer reads. I don't really do themed readings, even though there are some books and authors I prefer to read in the fall and the winter to the summer. But I don't really do that kind of vacation or beach read thing. Problem number 8 is, do you write in or annotate your books? And I do sometimes, but I write in pencil, and what I prefer to do, if I can find them at hand, is I use sticky notes to put on the pages. This allows me more freedom to write in pen, which I usually have more pens than pencils, and I don't feel like I'm doing any damage to the book for the next person who may come along and read it. And I can always just take the sticky notes out or leave them in if I need to. Problem number 9 is new or backlist. So I did a tag earlier in which I kind of talked about how I don't read a lot of new releases, but last year, thanks to BookTube, I probably read more new releases than I ever have. But still, I would say that probably 80 to 85% of my reading are backlist books. And then problem number 10 was, do you read books as they're released? Do you read books in a series? Do you wait until they're all out and then read them all at once? And I don't read a lot of books in series, so I certainly don't wait for the books to come out. Since I do read a lot of backlist, mostly what I read are series that have long ago been published, so I can buy them and read them all at once. I can read the first one and decide if I like it and go on, and not be out there waiting for the new release. Also, I'm not particular about which version of the book I have, or that the covers of my books match. Those things don't bother me, so I just read the books as I'm ready to read them, regardless of when they've been released. Anyway, there you go, the Dilemmas of the Book Nerd tag. Thanks again to Doris for tagging me to do this. This was fun, and I wanted to make sure I could, fly my book nerd flag. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments section below, and as always, thank you for watching.